Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's, fur flies, and jet wash dreams. Yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin, all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shotty's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah, yo, Shotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep, yeah. CiottiFPV, Teddy spaghetti, diamond at duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Teddy spaghetti, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotti and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends, legends singing loud. Yeah, Teddy spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud.
Hello friends, I'm RCinPower. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Sunday Q&A. That was 1S, believe it or not. Today we're going to be talking about 2S. You were just watching the... it's up there on the shelf. But it's the... All it is a Mobula 7 1S ELRS with a motor swap. The motors that are on it are the brand new GetBarC 1002 25,000 kV with 1S 450 mAh batteries. Flies really, really good. Do we have a... what's the RPM that it pulls? This is going to matter. Wow, it pulls 51,400 RPM. That's really close to what you're going to see today from the 2S stuff, which is super impressive. So it pulls 51,500 RPM, and what was the run time? Yeah, see, so that's where there is a big difference. 341, 3 minutes and 15 seconds on that 1S 450 mAh battery. The 2S version of that build is doing like 4+ minutes with more RPM. To be expected. It's double the voltage, right? It's the 2S stuff is realistically kind of an unfair advantage. It is 2 grams heavier to do the 2S version of that build. You know, what we're talking about here are just like 1.6-inch prop outdoor builds, right? Big power. We're not super worried about weight. They're pretty lightweight. The 2S setup here, and so this 2S setup is kind of the same thing. It's a Mobula 7 1S ELRS that has been frame swapped. Instead of the Mobula 7 V4 frame, it's the Mobula 7 V3 frame because this frame is set up for a 2S battery. And then it's motor swapped as well. And we're going to talk about the motors here in a bit. So this guy here, this 2S one, is 28 grams dry, and then 43.5 grams with the awesome Tinywhoop 2S 300 mAh BT 3.0 battery. So still very, very lightweight. You don't really feel the difference between these, and to be honest, like, so I've done these builds light, heavy, and everywhere in between. I've got 2 of these 2S setups. One of them's on 802s. The other one here is on 1002s. This one on 1002s, if it was even heavier, I would be totally fine with it. The one that's on 802s is significantly lighter, obviously. And it's cool. I like that it's lighter. When I duck into the garden in between the bushes and stuff, it's awesome. But like outside of in that super tight little space, the extra weight of this guy is actually really nice to just have a little bit more mass, a little bit more momentum. So you really can't go wrong. I mean, like the 802 2S build, the 1002 2S builds, they're both just like cheating. they're so much fun, man. Like it is the most fun that you will have in your front and backyard or at a jungle gym or really anywhere. Like it's small enough, it's light enough, it's a little toy. You're not going to get yelled at for flying it. If you do get yelled at for flying it, it's going to be like, hey, you can't fly that, go away, rather than like, I'm going to stab you. And so yeah, there's that. I'm gonna stab you. Great. Hey, this is my full-time job, believe it or not. CiottiFPV.com is where you can go to support it if you would like to see these live streams continue. I do rely on support from you beautiful bastards. And so, yeah, do it, and we'll keep hanging out. How's that sound? Today, we're going to be talking about T-Motor 1002. Let me just double check. They are 18,000. Okay, good. 18,000 kV motors versus what's now on this thing. And again, let me just double check. RCinPower, yeah, 1002, 14,000s. The reason I had to check just now is that I have these RCinPower motors in both 18, or I think they're 19,000 kV and 14,000. And I was like 99% sure that I put the right ones on here, but I just wanted to be absolutely certain. And then I thought these T-motors might be 19,000, but they're actually 18,000. So I just wanted to make sure I had the thumbnail set properly. So yeah, 18,000 kV on 80% motor limiting. Let me do that math real quick. So we've got 18,000 times 0.08 equals it should have been 0.8, but here, 18,000 times 0.8. That's how you find 80% of something. 14,400 kV. So as close as makes no difference. I had the T-Motor 18,000s motor limited down to 14,400 kV. And then when I put these 14,000 kV RCinPower 1002s on, I open the motor limiting all the way up to 100%. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to take a look at today. We're going to be, you know, I guess primarily looking at the difference between these two motors, but I think just as interesting is looking at the difference in efficiency and max RPM when we're mainly efficiency, though, when we're dealing with motor limiting. 80% motor limiting, that's a good chunk. These higher kV T-motor motors, I have the option to crank the motor limiting up to 85%, 90%, 95% if I just want like an infinite amount of power on them, or if I want to run them on a smaller prop or a lower pitch prop or something like that. The propellers that I have this build on that I absolutely love are fairly low pitch and small already. They're 1.6 inch, so there's only two sizes smaller than these, 1.4 and 1.2. Neither one of those give you the option of a 2S frame, so realistically, these 1.6 inch props are the smallest that you would want to run these 1002s on. And then in terms of pitch, these are GemFan 1610s. 16 as in 1.6 inches, 10 as in 1.0 inches of pitch. 10 pitch is very low. 1.0 inches of pitch is very, very low pitch. So we're kind of in a scenario here where realistically these propellers are as small and low pitch as it's going to get. So the advantage of having a motor that you motor limit down is not all that significant, especially on a really lightweight analog rig. If you're going to do an HD rig like this, where you're going to drag around an extra 7 or 8 grams of dead weight in the digital VTX and camera, right? Then having an 18,000 or 19,000 kV motor that you can crank up to 85% or 90% to get more power than these 14,000s does start to make sense. On these analog setups that are really lightweight, as you're going to see, I'm kind of spoiling the surprise, but as you're going to see, this is it. If you already have a set of 1002s that are 18 or 19,000 or even 20,000 kV, they're totally fine. Do that, you know, and you're looking to do this build, just do the build. Don't like go out and buy a set of 14,000s. But if you don't have motors for a build like this and you're looking to do it, the 14,000s are where it's at. You'll see. So I've got a whole bunch of DVR here from the HD0 goggles that we're going to look through, and we'll be able to check how many amps the different motors are pulling at full throttle. We'll be able to check how low the battery sags, which is a real kind of nice thing that we can look at now. And then we can look at run times, of course, all that jazz. So yeah, this will be cool to kind of compare these two. We are, to be honest though, we are more comparing 14,000 kV 1002s to 18,000 kV or 19 or 20,000 kV 1002s versus comparing T-Motor versus RCinPower. Yes, one of these motors are built by T-Motor, the other motors are built by RCinPower, but like with these 2S 1.6 inch prop builds, power is no problem. And so which motor manufacturer you go with, who makes the most powerful 1002 14,000, that shit don't matter. Buy the motors that are in the color that you like the best. I'm serious. Like with a build like this, you're going to have more than enough power. And so if you're trying to decide between the orange RCinPower motors and the blue T motors, and you like orange better, buy the orange motors. What we are going to see though is that 14 or 15,000 kV is it's going to be it's where you want to be. Again, if you're buying the motors, if you don't already have them, that's probably where you want to go, unless you think in the future you might convert this analog build into a digital build, then get the higher KV. But yeah, we'll dive into that. Bad at Drones was first in chat. Spaceman Spiff, We Bleed, Levster, Tamava, McShaky, Matt the Wegner, Frank Nicholas, Eco 4458, Levster again, Yukon FPV, Sporny, Chuck P, RAF, Cole, Fizz, Mape, Sporny again, Apache Smoke Wounded Sniper, Louis, Goated, Ramalala, 421 Mantis. That's Patrick. What's 421 Mantis in reference to? Whoop Fox, Tommy Noose, Atreides is in the house. What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. As a reminder, I have a set of Newbie Drone HD0 goggle foam that you can have for the cost of shipping. The adhesive on the nose part is just barely starting to separate. They're totally fine, though. I've got an iFlight Defender 1.8 inch extra frame and flight controller and a bunch of other stuff. If you know anybody that has an iFlight Defender, I got some stuff I'll send them for the price of shipping. My Etsy store, of course, has lots of good stuff linked over on CiottiFPV.com. I am doing 3D printing for you. Oh, Brad designed something really cool. 3D printing. Here it is. Wait, nope, that's just the picture of it. And it's up over on Printables. The link is in the 3D printing channel on my Discord. Look at this. If you've got the DJI controller, you can make it a lot more usable, a lot more big boy transmitter style by printing this really cool thing out. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. So there you go. If you need me to print it, I can print it for you. I've got TPU. It's going to be an expensive print, though, because that's a lot of TPU. It's probably going to be like a $20 print. But yeah, very, very, very cool. In the chat, ask me questions. I'll answer them. Make sure that you type at CiottiFPV, though. YouTube has changed things again, and you can't just type somebody's name. You have to put the at in front of it. So tag me, and yeah, I'll answer your question. Make sure it's a good question. Ask any question you want. Join my Patreon, linked over on CiottiFPV.com. That's the best possible way for you to support me. Speaking of, a couple beautiful bastards just joined the other day. Aristar, I believe that's pronounced. Welcome to the Gangly Gang. Thank you for joining the Patreon. Very, very cool. And then we've got Raptor. Welcome to the most gangly gang that you've ever seen. Thank you, Raptor. Joseph L., thank you for the Patreon. I think this came through during the stream the other night, but I didn't see it. So thank you so much, man, for the support. And then Mike H., I'm not going to ruin your last name. Thank you for joining the Patreon, man. Very cool of you. I really do appreciate it. All right, I am caught up. And here we go. Diving into chat. McShaky says, I just ordered the CrazyG473 based on Infinity Loop's recommendation. You should send one to CiottiFPV to do his testing and review if he doesn't mind soldering motors. I didn't even... There's no motor plugs on that? What? I thought that it had motor plugs. Oh, hell. Does it at least come with motor plugs that you can put? Nope. That is 100% direct soldered motor ad. Well, no. That looks like a different picture. Sometimes when they put the little pockets on the side here, you can actually solder on a motor plug. It's a little bit harder. It's going to depend upon the spacing between these three. Man, that is very annoying that is direct solder only. Shit, that's a shame. Wait a second. Is it all? Does it also not have the VTX built in? I love that it's got the JST plug instead of the USB port. That's awesome. So it's got ELRS built in from this antenna. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have. I guess it doesn't have an AIO built in. No, I'm thinking of the X13. Never mind. I'm silly. Yeah, no. This is their HD 2S AIO. I was getting this confused with the other one. There's the ELRS antenna. Oh shit, no, okay. There it is. It does have a VTX built in. Okay. All right, cool. I saw those video in and video out pads and I was like, "Oh shit." Wow, so this has everything. And you can actually see right here, here are the solder bridges to turn on or off the receiver or the VTX. We were just talking about that the other day on the stream. So yeah, I'm sure this is a great AIO, but on a Tinywhoop in a plastic frame, having direct soldered motors is a total pain in the ass because you can't fit the motors through this hole in these frames. And so every single time that, like, it just sucks. It sucks not to be able to just take the AIO out. For the AIO and the motors to be direct soldered together, you have to bolt the motors on and then try to balance the AIO up above here, feed the motor wires up through and solder it like right above the frame. It's just, yeah, it's just one of those things. To me, this is more an AIO for a carbon fiber frame. This would actually be a perfect AIO for these baby turtles that I'm going to be building. So yeah, if one of these did get sent to me, that is what I would really be using it for. And that would actually be really nice. It would be, you know, having an AIO that has ELRS and the VTX built in, and it's got an easy to access set of pads to turn either one of those things off is awesome, because you can build it as analog, and then if someday you go to an 04 light, you just break that solder bridge for the VTX, which turns the VTX off, stack the 04 light on top, and away you go. So this is really nice that Happy Model have managed to make an AIO with black box, 16 megs of black box, with, oh, it's only a 5 amp. They're only 5 amp FETs. Oh, and it's 1S only. Okay. That's weird. I would rather go with the X13, because the Happy Model X13 is the newer version of the X12. It's got 12 amp FETs and it's 2S. It's 1S or 2S. So this CrazyG473 is more of a replacement for the Super X that comes in the Mobula 6 2024, which is fine. You know, this is cut down a little bit, so it might fit in like the Meteor 65 Pro frame or the Meteor 75 Pro frame. The fact that this is direct solder only, though, is kind of weird and annoying. But hey, kind of is what it is. Sometimes so this is more of a 65 millimeter frame. Yes, you could run this on a 1S 75 millimeter 1.6 inch prop build. But yeah, something that's 1S only is again more of a 1.2 inch prop build. I didn't realize that. All right. Eco4458 says, good evening, looking to get a setup like yours with the top-down camera. Can you recommend anything? Not really, to be honest. The top-down camera that I use here is one of these Logitech C910s, and they're awful. The autofocus is really, really bad. The reason that I use them is that I already have them and they're free, and also they're small. My setup here is kind of claustrophobic. Like, I've got a lot on this desk surface, but I try to keep it like as kind of pared down and slimmed down as possible. And like this setup here allows me to have this really, really handy light that I use just when I'm working on stuff, which I took the lens out of. And so this kind of peeks through. And then it's small. Like, I'm always reaching over into these drawers. And so this camera being really small is super important for me personally. But, like, the camera looks like shit and pisses me off all the time. So I can't really recommend it because most people are not going to have like so much of a space constraint over here. I also have this set up so that I can use the same microphone when I'm sitting here at the computer or when I roll 4 feet to my right and I'm at the workbench. Again, just to like pare everything down and try not to have 2 different microphones. I already have 3 different cameras, this one and then the 2 that I just showed you. You know, like when you start to expand, you end up with 2 mics or 3 mics and then 4 or 5 cameras, and that really drags on OBS. So yeah, I don't love this camera, but it's free. I have it, and that kind of is what it is. I don't know what to recommend for a top-down camera. It's got to be something that has a very close this is the other reason that I use these, is that they are willing to focus pretty close to themselves. A lot of times webcams will not do that. Webcams are set up to be on top of your monitor and for you to be a few feet away. So a lot of webcams will not have that macro focus, which you kind of need with this setup. So yeah, I don't know. I have had an eBay alert for a while for an OBSBot webcam, which I saw a YouTube review of that looked pretty good. So I'm going to try that at some point, but I'm afraid that it won't focus close enough. So we'll see. But yeah, my setup is fairly kind of like thrown together from stuff that I've had. I started FPV as a full-time job in debt, like, which is the worst way to kind of start your own business. Like, you want to start your own business with a whole shitload of money that you can spend on lots of nice stuff so that you can do a good job. You know, I started doing this full time when I was massively in debt from my previous marriage. And so I had to, you know, I've cobbled together gear all along the way. And, you know, it's awesome that I've been able to do this. And hopefully it makes you guys realize that you can also do this without having, you know, without being like independently wealthy. You know, like when you look at when you look at like most of the FPV folks that you're familiar with, most of them either came from money or, like, you know, like Tommy, for example, he came from finance. Like, he was in the finance world. So when he went full time with Oh My God, he had plenty of money stacked up, right? Like, he had that Green Lotus and like he was doing really well for himself. And that really, really, really does help. It is incredibly difficult to do it. The not to take anything away from him, like, that's the right way to do it. That's the intelligent way to do it. What I'm doing is reckless and insane, but it is it feels good to be like, to try to kind of set an example of like, look, you don't, like, if you're just crazy enough, you can build something out of nothing in a way. So yeah. There you go. Sporny says, looking sleek, how you doing? I'm good, brother. How about you? Levster says, nice haircut. Thank you, dude. Mape says, I had no idea that 1002 could take 2S. Alright, so Mape, that's a very, very, very common misconception. That X, Y, or Z motor can or can't take a certain battery voltage. We could run 6S through 1002s. We would just have to motor limit it way down, or we would have to find a 1002 that was very, very, very low kV. Voltage and motor size have nothing to do with one another. Voltage and kV absolutely have something to do with one another. If you've got a motor that is mega high kV and then you put a 4S or 5S or 6S or 8S battery on it, that extremely high amount of voltage paired with that extremely high kV, it's going to be too much. It's going to try to put a million RPM through the motor. The motor's going to get too hot. The windings, the enamel coating on the windings is going to melt, and the motor's going to explode. Yeah, voltage and motor size are two totally separate things. If we could find, let's go super extreme. If we could find an 0702 motor that was like 5,000 kV, we could run that thing on 6S. We probably could not find a 6S battery that's light enough for the amount of thrust that an 0702 motor can make. See what I'm saying there? But yeah, don't fear voltage. Never like look at an 0702 and be like, well, that's 1S only. No, there are actually 0702s that are low enough kV that you could run them on 2S. The problem would be there are no frames that are designed for a motor that's as small as an 0702 that are going to hold a 2S battery. And so like the problems kind of pop up elsewhere. But yeah, thank you for saying that, because that's a super, super, super common misconception. That's the kind of misconception that runs rampant on Facebook groups and Reddit. That is a perfect example of something that gets said on Reddit and Facebook groups over and over and over again by hundreds of people that are just so desperate to help but don't actually understand what's going on with this stuff. They see that like their buddy built a 1S rig on an 0702 and they're like, oh, okay, so the 0702 is a 1S only motor. Like, no, like you gotta, you're in the right place, right? This is where we dive deeper. This is where we actually explain this stuff so that you can really understand it. And then hopefully go out into the world and spread that good, actual, not, long form content based knowledge rather than 30-second YouTube shorts. Buy this. This is my best thing ever. So, Uriel says, can you fly it indoors? Absolutely. You can absolutely fly these 2S 1.6 inch prop rigs indoors. I don't recommend it because they're heavy and they're really powerful. And so when you crash, they're going to hit hard and they're probably going to be going really fast. And so if you have things inside your house that you don't want to get broken, this is not the right rig for it. Also, it being heavy and powerful, it's going to make an inside space feel really small because it's going to accelerate so fast. It's going to have so much weight. It's not going to want to like turn the corner between your coffee table and your couch, right? It's going to like slide out a little bit more. Flying inside is the realm of 1.2 inch prop builds that are as light as possible, pretty much always on 1S. Power be damned, but as light as possible, which means 0702 motors typically, and then, yeah, all the other things that we talk about for lightweight. Uriel also says, the best word for a Dutch guy is cheesehead instead of cheeseburger eater. Nice. We call, what is it, Iowa? I think we call people that live in Iowa, which is a state in the South here in the U.S. I guess it's a Midwest state. We call them cheeseheads because they make a lot of cheese in Iowa. Lewis says, I was wondering about your availability for your Fiverr availability this week. Not sure if you still do that. I do. Yep. If you want the protection that Fiverr offers, you can go CiottiFPV.com, hit the Fiverr link, or just search for CiottiFPV on Fiverr. And you can go through Fiverr. or you can just, in fairness, Fiverr's Messenger is not the greatest. And so your other option is just to go to my website, pick one of my contact methods. Instagram, Discord are the best. I check those the most often, but there's also my email address in there. And I think there's also a link to my Facebook as well. Wherever, message me, give me a couple days and brackets of time that you're available, and I'll see if that matches up with my calendar. We'll talk back and forth and get it all scheduled. That is the best way for you guys to learn a lot. Like these live streams, I work really hard to dump every bit of knowledge that I've got into them and to answer absolutely any question. But, you know, we're dealing with text, you're typing, and then I'm trying to, in a lot of cases, fill in the blanks. A one-on-one session with me, it's $40 for a half an hour, $60 for an hour, and you will learn like a year's worth in that short period of time, because you'll be able to ask me direct questions. And if you don't understand the way that I'm explaining it, I will explain it in a different way, and in a different way, and in a different way until you actually get it. That's hard to do. You know, I got into FPV about a decade ago. For the first like 3-4 years, it was just a nonstop struggle to find good quality information on forums. It was all forums back then. And so, yeah, if you want to really get a leg up and learn a ton really fast, you know, it's, what is your time worth? If you have more time than money, these live streams are a beautiful way for you to learn a ton of stuff for free. If you have more money than time, I got you. Goated04 says, on the new Beta FPV Air Wisp listing, I saw they admitted a front grommet from the flight controller, and they claim it increases durability and crashes by 80%. How could you, in what world could you test that? In what universe could you put a number like that on durability? That's really weird. I didn't notice that. Somebody mentioned it the other day, and I assumed that they did that because they were using the version of their AIO that doesn't have the front mounting post. But it looks like that is not the case. Unfortunately, these are all just dumbass CAD drawings. Maybe this one isn't. Hold on, let's see if we can get an actual... that is the first I've heard of that. I've never known anyone to do that. I'm going to assume that that's something that the racers figured out. But yeah, I have no idea. That seems like a bad idea to me, but you know, maybe not. It won't let me make any of these images any bigger, but it does look like there's no grommet on the front here, and so I don't get it. I really don't understand why they would do that. The reason that seems like a bad idea to me is that by doing that, you've got a hard PCB and then a relatively hard plastic post, and like the front hole in the PCB is designed for a grommet. So if like the post is this wide, the hole is going to be this wide. So in theory, they'll never do this, but as soon as they start doing this, the PID loop is going to not know what the fuck is going on, because the PID loop is designed to work with sinusoidal, like, even vibrations. When you've got two pieces of hard material hitting each other, you'll get like a soft on one side and then sharp on the other side, and then soft and then sharp. And the PID loop is going to like not understand that. Even if the post is small enough and the hole is big enough, you've also got, this is the flat PCB. This is the bottom where the, how can I do this? So you've got, here we go. This is the, I can't really do it. You've got like a flat part of the frame, and then you've got the post sticking up, and then you've got your flat PCB. That flat PCB might be able to go down and hit in this direction as well as wiggling back and forth. It just seems insane to me. I also have no clue how that could possibly help with durability. When you screw that top screw down through the canopy, you bottom it out on the plastic, whether the grommet is there or not. So like, I don't get that at all. Maybe it's something in the racing community. Maybe there's, the only thing I can think of is that on a hard crash, if there is no grommet, the hard plastic frame will push up against the hard plastic PCB, and it won't go anywhere. But like, if the grommet's there, on the inside of the grommet, the rubber is really thin. And so, like, I just don't get it. I don't understand that at all. I'm not going to try it. So, yeah. Oh man, I just don't get it. I don't understand. But if by doing that, the beta FPV AIOs that are very fragile, are all of a sudden less fragile, then yes, we should start doing that. But like, the chances of something bad happen, there's so many opportunities for something bad to happen there, that I just don't understand. I really don't get it. Yeah. I don't know. I get, there are, if the Air AIOs were the only good AIOs, then it would be something that I would try. But they're not. Happy Model's got a bunch of great AIOs, and yeah, so I just run them. That's weird. That's super, super, super weird. If any of you guys are in the Whoop racing community, please let me know if that's something that they've figured out is like some magical mystery key to more durability. Tommy News says, I have an Air 65 with an 04 in it and can't get it. Works with the light radio. Can you help me out, bro? I don't totally understand what you mean when you say can't get it. Oh, can't. I think you're saying that you can't get it to work with the light radio. There's probably not a whole, I mean, I don't have hardly anything to go off of there. Like, I don't know if the problem is that it won't bind, or if that it won't send the throttle command, or, right? So I've got like nothing to go off of here. So from this, one sentence, I can't help you. But yeah, if you wanted, if for example, you booked a 5-hour session with me, we could almost certainly get that figured out in like a half-an-hour session. But yeah, trying to do that through the live stream here would be pretty much impossible, unfortunately, because I can't get enough information from you to actually be able to figure it out. Like, we would have to go back and forth, which trying to do that via text is incredibly difficult. I'm sorry, not Iowa, Wisconsin. Good call, Fizz. Yep, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is cheese. Iowa is corn. Good call. Uriel says, preach, bro. Gusto says, there we go. Gusto correcting me again. Wisconsin, cheesehead. Atreides says, no, it's not anything we want at 533 LOL. Atreides, can you think of anything? Have you... Atreides is way more tied into the Whoop racing community. Have you heard of any Whoop racing Why would they do that? Like, they would only do it if it really did accomplish something, right? Like, that's what's weird about this. Like, there's not like a shortage of rubber grommets, right? Like, very weird. Very, very, very weird. All right. Let's dive in to 14,000 kV versus 18,000 kV. And we're just going to start blasting through some DVR here. And I talked a little bit in the DVR, so let me kind of crank this up a little bit.
These are the T-Motor 1002s. Let's see what the motor limiting is at.
Cool. So these are the T-Motor 18,000 1002s. And so there's the motor output limit, 80% down the bottom there. All right? So there's your proof that they're at 80%. So the first thing that we're going to do here is a big old full throttle blast. And one of the things that I want to look at
It's pretty hard.
is how far the battery sags. But did I forget to do... I think I forgot to do it on this battery. I did it on the next battery. So we'll look at like kind of flight characteristics, and we'll look at flight time. At the beginning of the live stream, you got to see the most powerful 1S 1.6-inch build that I've been able to put together with the parts that are available. This is now 2S. More power, more runtime, better response time, and this is only 2 grams heavier. If you're going to build a 1.6-inch outdoor whoop, do it with 2S, unless you already have a whole bunch of the 450 mAh 1S batteries.
Bum-bums.
I think I'm done kind of talking in here, so I'll mute this. This is incredibly fun. It's so accurate. It makes an outdoor space look a lot smaller. That right there, though, that is a perfect example of the problem, the only problem with this build. I put the nose down, I get a little bit of forward momentum. I didn't get nearly enough forward momentum. What I was trying to do is dive down the house. I could have put the nose down farther, hammered the throttle harder, and generated more forward momentum. But I didn't. On a heavier build or on an open prop build, this would not have happened. I turned it over to dive it. I need to clear this tree in the top left corner here. I need to try to clear this tree. And I realized pretty quickly that I didn't have nearly enough momentum to clear that tree. So I flipped it over. I gave it another throttle blip, and then I dove it back down. And it just, you know, that was just, I fucked up, and it looked terrible. But yeah, there you go. That is really the only problem with this, is that it doesn't have enough momentum, and you do get used to it. And the fact that it doesn't have a lot of momentum is why it's so good out here. It makes your front yard feel gigantic, because when you put the nose down 10 degrees, it doesn't go haul-assing across the yard and just eat that entire space. It cruises slower, and so it lets you do more. It lets you, like, you know, carve in and out of the little bushes and whatnot. That was a very weird crash. I was obviously not looking at where I was going, and I just blasted right into that. But that crash is a good example of another amazing thing about these builds, is that you can smash into brick at pretty much full steam, and it bounces off and you keep flying. Not only does it not crash, it doesn't break. It just keeps going. This is me crashing over into the no man's land there, and I actually had to take the walk of shame. Usually with these whoop frame builds, though, you don't have to take the walk of shame. It's so nice. You just fly. It bounces off, or you can turtle mode it out. It is very rare that you have to actually go get the damn thing. This was sketchy, man. I got really lucky it didn't get hung up in that tree there. So, again, these are the T-Motor 1002 18,000s at 80% throttle limit. We're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. At 0 throttle there, the battery was at like 3.6, so still a good amount of battery life. We saw a little bit of prop wash there. With a Tinywhoop frame, you're never going to get absolutely all of the prop wash out, so you're going to have to fly better. You're going to have to fly in a way that you don't dump it directly into its own prop wash. That's just sort of a part of the game here. With the whoop frames, you've got a weird aerodynamic situation. And even if you keep adding more and more and more power, it's just, you're never going to get it to be 100% prop wash free because it's in a weird aerodynamic kind of situation. So letting it settle here, we're at 3 minutes and 15, and it was at a dead hover, it was at 3.48, 3.49. So that's really good runtime, better runtime than you're going to get on 1S, more power, quicker response time. Now we're going to get to see a full throttle blast. That was one of them, and I think here comes another one.
It's about as much RPM as they're going to give.
No, that one was fine. So let's take a look here at how far the battery sags, and then when I disarm it, we're going to see the RPM.
RPM number, 80% motor limiting.
80% motor limiting, I just said. Here we go. So absolutely fully charged battery. How do I go single frame forward? What is it? I think it's command and right. Oh, fucking hell. That ain't it. Well, it's not command and right. Is it control? Is it control and right? Nope. Shift right? Nope. Option right. It's option and to the right. Okay. So we're going to go frame by frame here. All right. So option and right arrow. 3.76, 3.67, 3.62, 356, 351, 347, 346. So 3.46 was as low as the battery sagged here. 15.75 amps on the bottom right corner. Ooh, this is nice. Look at this. Ready? So we got 15.6, and then we got 15.75. Next frame, still 15.75, still 15.75, still 15.75, still. So it looks like 15.75 is absolute max amp draw at full battery. And so now let's see in a minute here, when I land it, what the RPM was. Hold on. Let me actually put in a chat comment those numbers. So 15.75, so 3.47, 18,000 kV dash, 3.47, 15.75 amps, 3.47 volts, and then we can compare this. I don't think I did another full throttle blast, but maybe I did. Let's see here.
How much RPM is they're going to give?
The battery is now discharged down a little bit, so even if I did, it kind of doesn't matter. This is another full battery that I flew, so we'll keep this on. That was another big one. Usually I do it twice. I was kind of surprised. And so down here on the bottom right, you can see the throttle value. So like, look how long I'm at. So I'm at 100%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's 2/3 of a second that I'm at 100% throttle. Oh, wow. I'm at 100% throttle for a while. Okay, so 13.57. The battery has discharged down a little bit here. And now look at the voltage. The battery is sagging all the way down to 3.23. I've only been flying for 16 seconds, though. So here's another important kind of point that I wanted to talk about. This poor battery is sagging all the way down to 3.2 volts, 3.22 volts. Like, you don't want a more powerful setup than this. You don't want motors that are more powerful that are going to drag the battery down to 3.1 or 3.0. So, like, this setup here, 1002... 14,000-ish kV, right? These are 18,000s, but they're motor limited 80%. This is it, man. You don't want to build a setup that's more powerful than this. And so, the 18,000 kV motor sort of loses its benefit. You don't want to run this at 85% motor limiting or 90% motor limiting, because even 16 seconds into a battery, it's pulling the battery all the way down to 3.2 volts, and like, that's too much. If you did want to do that, you would want to go to a bigger battery. These are 2S 300 mAh batteries. you would want to go up to a 2S 450 mAh battery or 380 mAh battery. And I don't want to do that on these analog builds because those batteries are too heavy. I'm already getting like 4 minutes of runtime from this battery. And so this is the perfect battery for this setup to keep the weight down, right? And so we're pretty optimized here. This is, in my opinion, this is how we optimize a powertrain. We look at how hard the battery gets hammered early on at full throttle. When you leave it full throttle for a while, yeah, sure. I left this thing full throttle for a good amount of time. I hammered this thing down the street. You could argue that I left this thing full throttle for like too long, and normally you wouldn't do that. But I got news for you. If you pull up to a tree and you go full throttle and you want to get over top that tree, you're going to be full throttle for roughly the same amount of time. So I think this is a really good test. And again, like, this is 16 seconds into the battery. If you were to do this same thing 2 minutes into the battery, which, like, let's be honest, we do, right? We're getting all fucking fired up 2 minutes in. We're all dialed in. We see a big tree or there's an opportunity to hammer at full throttle. You're going to do it. That's going to pull this battery down to like 2.9 volts. That's going to hurt the battery. And so this is really well optimized here. I'm going to let this continue to play out here. Actually, yeah, no, this is good. So I'm going to let this play out. The numbers that we got for these motors, 3.47 volts of sag at 15.75 amps when I as soon as I took it off. That is going to be a good comparison. And now here we go with RPM. So at the beginning of the live stream on the 1S setup, we saw, was it 51,500 RPM, I think? And here now on 2S, we are up at 54,600 RPM. So that's the last number that I want to put in here, 54,600 RPM. All right, so now we've got all of our actual data on the T-Motor 1002 18,000s at 80% motor limiting. I'll let the rest of this kind of play out so that you can see a little bit more how a 2S build on 1002. Really, this is much less, hey, here's what this specific T-Motor flies like. This is much more, this is how a 1.6-inch prop Tinywhoop on 2S with a 1002 flies. You can get this kind of flight performance with like a half a dozen different motors. There are a bunch of 1002s at 14,000 kV, 15,000 kV, 18,000 kV, 19,000 kV, 20,000 kV. The 18, 19, and 20,000 kV motors, you have to motor limit down to 80% or 75% or even 70% if you're all the way up at 20,000 kV. But really, this is the flight performance that you will get from a 2S 75mm build on 1002s. On 802s, it's very similar. It doesn't have quite as much grunt, and it doesn't have as much weight. The 1002 setup, regardless of the kV, is going to weigh what this build here weighs. And so, again, from the flight characteristic standpoint, this is what you're going to get. You can see at the end of those flips and rolls, it's really crisp, zero bounce back. This is not something that is like super tuned. The tune is very tame on this because this is one of my test bed rigs that I switch motors, I switch props, I switch everything all over the place. And so I can't really dial those in perfectly. So yeah, again, this is not like, yes, sure, this is exactly what it'll fly like on the T-Motor motors, but you won't be able to see a flight characteristic difference in a minute when this thing is on the RCinPower motors. So yeah, keep that in mind. The fact that these, you know, again, what we're comparing is 18,000 kV versus 14,000 kV in a couple of different ways, mainly efficiency. Boy, oh boy, I got lucky there. Big power loops like that, like a big power loop over a tree, this rig doesn't do a great job with that. These Tinywhoops are not for power looping an entire 40-foot tall tree. They're for everything else that and that's why I don't do that very often, because it's not for that. It's for everything else that you see me doing. It's not aerodynamic enough, basically. Like, to do that giant power loop, even at full throttle, it's just a shitty aerodynamic situation. It's got these guards around the ducts, and they really slow it down. And, like, we love that they slow it down for this other kind of flying that we're doing. But for a giant power loop, it's not a great setup. We're at 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and you saw at a hover, the battery was at like 3.45, 3.46. So there you go. There's what you get from any of the 18, 19, or 20,000 kV 1002s that you're going to motor limit down. This is what you're going to get. 3.5 minutes of runtime if you land at 3.46 to 3.49 at a dead hover. And then you got to see the RPM and all that good stuff. It's awesome. It flies great. If you go digital on that rig, you can maybe turn it up to 85% motor limiting if you need it. If the HQ props are a little bit less pitchy, so yeah, I guess maybe if you're gonna run the HQ props, but don't do that because they blow up at the hub. These GemFan 1610s are the way to go for these 1.6 inch builds. All right, now let me just make sure.
I've been twerking.
Let me just make sure. Oh, yep, okay. So now we are on.
This is the RCinPower 1002 14,000s.
There we go. So, hold on. Let's go back real quick. Fully charged battery, 4.19 volts. They always sag down from 4.35 as soon as you plug them in because they've got to run the VTX and the other stuff. One quick snap roll, and now we're full throttle. So, again, freshly charged battery, probably the exact same battery, to be honest. And we're full throttle. So, option, right arrow. Nope, that's not a full throttle blast. Where's my full throttle blast at? There it is. Okay, so let me just go back. I want to get a rough idea of how many frames I'm at 100% throttle for. So there's 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, 21, 22, 23, 29, 30. Great. So this is 20 or 30 frames at full throttle will give these motors and props plenty of time to spin all the way up to their max. You're also going to see the amp rating stop going up. It's hitting 13.29 here. So let me start leaving notes in a chat message here. So now we're on 14,000 kV, and we're seeing, well, let's keep going forward here. 13.29, 12.89. So it's actually the battery is sagging enough that the amps are coming down now. So that is great. 13.29 amps at a voltage of 3.53. This is perfect. This all scales exactly the way that it should. Let's let this play out here. I think I might have done one more full throttle hit. That ain't it. My God, look at that float. That float is just a big part of the magic here. There we go. There's another big full throttle blast, 12.08. This, and now so the battery is a little bit discharged, so we're probably not going to get as high of a number, and we can see already 12 bottom right corner, 12.08 amps. I'm still at full throttle, 11.21 amps. That is the highest number of amps that this thing is willing to pull before the battery sags down. Now it's dropping down even more. We're still 100% throttle, still dropping down, still 100% throttle. So that's great. That is repeatability. That's exactly what we want. In a second here, I'll land and we'll get the RPM, and then we can talk about the numbers. Awesome. 55,000. So this is super interesting. We'll call it 400 RPM. In the chat is all of those numbers. I'm going to let this play. So, 18,000 kV motors, motor limited to 80%, which brings them to an equivalent kV of 14,400, which is a little bit higher than the RCinPower 14,000s. 3.47 volts of battery sag on the freshly charged battery versus on the 14,000 kV RCinPowers at 100%, they only sagged down to 3.53 volts. So 3.47 versus 3.53. Right there, that is the difference between a motor that is wound for a higher kV that we are motor limiting versus a motor that's at the perfect kV at 100% motor limiting. Not much of a difference, right? 3.47 versus 3.53. That's you could almost say that that's fully like kind of negligible. The amps are more interesting though. The 18,000 kV motor was at 15.75 amps. The 14,000 kV motor was at 13.29 amps. That's a legitimate difference there. That is why this battery that you're going to see here, the runtime is going to be bananas. Even though I was in a rush here and I was really flying this battery as hard as I could, I flew this battery way harder than the batteries from yesterday on the 18,000 kV motors. I also had that crash, so it sat there on the ground running the VTX, which took a little bit out of the battery there. And then finally, RPM. The 18,000 kV motors turned 54,600 RPM. The 14,000 kV motors turned 55,400 RPM. So, such a beautiful example right here. A real-world example flying the same rig with the same batteries in the same location, hanging on full throttle for roughly the exact same amount of time. Even if I had held full throttle for longer or shorter, I was at full throttle for long enough that the amps started to come down. So we pulled the maximum amp that we possibly could. Here's the 2S rigs inside, just in the garage, but you know, you can fly them inside. It's not a great idea, but and so yeah, there we go. There is absolutely a difference between running the perfect kV motor at 100% versus having a slightly higher kV motor that you motor limit down. Having the slightly higher kV motor gives you a couple of options. Having your motor limiting not at 100% is really nice. Having to drop it down to like 80% or 75%, I've shown you exactly here that you do run into a little bit of an efficiency loss, and you actually you lose a little bit of power that way. The higher kV motor, even though it was motor limited at a percentage where it was 14,400 kV, it's still it doesn't have as much grunt as the lower kV motor. Very slightly, right? We're splitting hairs here, but if you're going to build one of these lightweight 1.6 inch prop 2S builds, the 14,000 kV motor is just perfect. It's exactly where you want to be. At 100% throttle, you won't want more power. Well, most people won't want more power than it. Unfortunately, you won't be able to get more power than it because we've got it at 100%. But look at that runtime, 4 minutes and 1 second. And where was the battery at a hover? At a hover, the battery is at 3.46 volts. So that is a real world test with the PID loop active, with this thing charging through the air, right? Like, in my opinion, this data set that we got here is more representative than what you would get from a thrust stand. Because on a thrust stand, the motor is bolted down. There's no incoming air. And that is a very different scenario than how we actually fly these things, right? As soon as we go full throttle, this starts hammering through the sky. And when that happens, there is incoming air that makes the motor's job easier. And so, to me, like, this test is way more accurate than bolting one of these things to a thrust stand. Thrust stand data is great. It's just, it's a scenario where the motor's job is being made harder. And so on the thrust stand, what you'll see is that a bigger motor will always do significantly better. And then a lower kV motor will also always do better, because the bigger motor is going to stay cooler when it's bolted down, and the lower kV doesn't have the advantage of the incoming air. In the real world, we can run a higher kV motor because of the incoming air making the motor's job easier and allowing it to spin higher. When this thing is bolted down to a thrust stand, it has to take all the static air and accelerate it in, and so the higher kV will always draw more amps, and it just won't do as good. So what I personally do when I'm looking at thrust stand data, and here's something else that's really important. If you're going to compare motors with thrust stand data, you have to find someone who has run those different motors on their exact thrust stand. You can't just go to Banggood and look at the manufacturer's thrust stand data, because each different manufacturer has a different thrust stand that has a different amount of like obstruction around the motor, or a lot of times you'll notice they're running different propellers, and that totally throws it out the window, right? It's hard to find an RCinPower motor and a T motor where they've both used the exact same propeller and the exact same voltage, right? And so it's incredibly difficult to compare thrust stand data, because a lot of times we haven't had one person put both of the exact motors that you're looking for on their thrust stand on, ideally on the same day so that the air density is the same, right? You can get really pedantic with this. So yeah, there you go. The digital builds that I've got, the 1.6 inch digital builds that I have, if I was going to do them on a 1002, this is my main one. This is my main 04 light 1.6 inch build. And I've actually got this on the Beta FPV 1102 motors that are 18,000 kV. And then I have these motor limited down to 85%. Because it's got the extra weight, it's got 8 extra grams versus this analog build. And also, the 1102 is a little bit of a bigger, gruntier motor. And so it can put that extra RPM in from that 85% motor limit. What I learned today, I knew that this testing was going to go like this. I'm thrilled that the numbers all perfectly lined up. But I kind of knew that this was going to be like this. But what I did legitimately learn today is that a 1002 does start to get hot. When we see those amp numbers start to drop down, it's not just because the battery is sagging. It's also because the motor is getting hot. And so what I'm pretty sure I've learned today here is that a 1002 at 14,400 kV, which is the equivalency of this 18,000 at 80% motor limiting, that's the limit. This motor with like a half a second full throttle blast is starting to overheat. And so between a 1002 and an 1102, the 1102 has that 10% more width, and so it's going to stay 10% cooler. That math would not work out, but you know what I'm saying? It's going to stay a little bit cooler. So these also 18,000 kV motors, since they're bigger at 85% motor limiting, it's going to be okay. It's going to give me the little bit of extra power that I want. So to expound on that a little bit, if you do one of these builds and you're on a 1002 at 14,000 kV or 18,000 kV at 80% motor limiting, if you want more power, which you shouldn't want if you're running these 300 mAh batteries because you're going to start to hurt the batteries. If you want more power, though, you want to go to a bigger motor. You want to go to an 1102. I mean, I guess you could also at that point say like, oh, I can go up to a 1003 or an 1103. Don't do that. Those are too big of a motor for a 1.6-inch prop. Go to this Beta FPV 1102. This motor is awesome. It barely weighs anything extra than the 1002s, and it's just a great motor. So yeah, if you have one of these 2S 1002 builds and you want more power on it, it's a no-brainer. Beta FPV 1102, 18,000 kV. Beta FPV does have a 14,000 kV version of this motor, but what we also looked at here is that the 1002 at 14,000 kV is like fucking perfect. So I wouldn't recommend going to the 1102 14,000 kV. It's not really going to gain you anything because you're going to be at 100% throttle anyway, unless you're on digital. If you're on digital, you're carrying extra weight, and that's going to make the motor get hotter all the time. So on a 1.6-inch prop digital build, these 1102s make a lot of sense. And it's pretty easy. If you want max efficiency and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of power, the 14,000 kV version of these Beta FPV 1102s. Fair warning, they're hard to find, but you might be able to still find them. If you want a little bit less weight, a little bit more, I'm sorry, not less weight. If you want the availability of more power, you go with the 18,000 kV Beta FPV 1102s. If you're on a digital build and you want to save as much weight as you possibly can, which is totally valid, the 1002s are absolutely fine. I had that build on 1002s and it was completely fine. It was great. I moved it to the 1102s. It had a tiny little bit more power, but it was really splitting hairs there. So yeah, these 1002s are a wonderful choice for any of these 2S 1.6-inch prop setups. If you're doing an analog build and you want to keep all the weight off and build it absolutely as light as possible, you can get 802s with 1.5 millimeter motor shafts. For the record, all of these builds that we're talking about, you need a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft if you're going to fly hard like I do. A 1 millimeter motor shaft with this much power and this much weight will like bend on the second crash. Like it's brutal. There are 802s that are 18 or 19,000 kV with a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft. And that's the absolute lightest weight that you can do. It's only really going to work for an analog setup. The extra 7 or 8 grams of digital is too much for the 802. It gets too hot. It does not perform. Hell yeah. I love the reason that I knew going into this what the result was going to be is A, I've done similar testing enough, but B, the way that they feel. I can feel at this point when I take off and I hit full throttle a couple of times and then just fly a battery and see what the runtime is. I can feel and I can just sort of tell what the deal is. And I've flown these RCinPower motors before. I've flown these T motors before. And so like I knew going in that the T motors were going to have less runtime. You could have more available power. I didn't necessarily think that the RCinPower lower kV motors were going to turn more RPM. It does not surprise me in the least, though, that they did. But yeah, I don't have an Excel spreadsheet for RPMs. Ramalala says, "Did you Excel sheet the chat?" No, you know, I'm tempted to do it, but at the moment, the Excel spreadsheets are based in more the data on the Excel spreadsheets comes from the adjustable power supply, providing an exact solid amount of battery voltage every single time. This real world testing that I'm doing here, I don't necessarily want to put that on the Excel, because, like, you know, I take off and I do like 2 flips and 1 roll on one test versus 1 flip and no rolls on the other test. That matters when there's a battery involved, right? And so, and like, yeah, I logged just now the battery voltage that these things drop down to, but that still doesn't tell the whole story. How many milliamps are in the battery has a lot to do with it. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to keep the spreadsheets out of, and like with this real world testing that we do, I really think that it has to be what we're doing here. It has to be this actual conversation of like what's going on. We have to look at the footage. We have to like count the frames that I'm at full throttle rate. And I think we really need to have this as a conversation rather than a set of numbers on a spreadsheet that somebody could look at and be like, oh, look, that one's sagging more. I don't want that. That's not the full story, right? So I don't think I'm going to add these to the spreadsheet for sort of those reasons. And, you know, if you want all the really juicy info, you gotta suck it up and watch some long form content like you guys are right now. Yeah, at the moment, the spreadsheet is all based off of rock solid voltage going to the AIOs from the power supply, and I think I want to keep it that way. That's a good thought, though. Benny Bravo, make sure you get no space between the @ and the CiottiFPV. Benny Bravo says, what is the largest 1S motor available? There's no real answer to that, because you could put a 2306 on a... Well, I mean, you couldn't mount it, but... well, so the actual answer to that question would be, what's the biggest 3-bolt motor, which would be like an 1103 or like a 1003, but there aren't any of those motors that are a high enough kV to work well on 1S. Well, so here's the biggest problem with that question, is that a 1S motor for a 1.2 inch prop build is going to be totally different than a 1S motor for a 1.6 inch prop build. So I at least need to know, well, okay, no. So the actual answer to that question would be Beta FPV 1102 22,000 kV. That is the largest motor that is at a kV that works for a build that you might do. That would need to be a 1.6, if not 1.8 inch propeller build. And realistically, though, those are the biggest frames that will carry a 1S battery. When you get up to a 2-inch frame, none of those frames are set up to carry a 1S battery. They're all set up to carry 2S. So yeah, the actual answer to your question is 1102 22,000 kV from Beta FPV. If you were talking about indoor builds, the largest motor that you would want to build an indoor Tinywhoop with would be an 802. but I still think you should go 702. 702 is the right motor for flying inside. I don't care what. There's only it feels like there's only a couple people left that are holding on to 802s. It really feels like everybody has moved over to 702s. They're just better. They're just so much lighter, and they make, if they're a high enough kV, they make plenty of power. And so, yeah, for an indoor 1S Tinywhoop, it's 702. To go any bigger than 702, it adds so much weight, and it doesn't add any real extra power, and you don't have such a good motor selection. It's just not a great idea. So there you go. Let me scroll back up and get caught up on chat here. Levster says, you missed my question. Please help me out here if you know what to do here. All right, let me scroll up here. The only time it looks like you tagged me, Levster, is when you said nice haircut. But YouTube has changed. Oh no, here we go. I missed it. I have a beta. How many other ones did I miss here? Hold on. I got Tommy Noose's comment. Oh, that's weird. Why did I fucking... I missed a couple. YouTube must have scrolled me to the bottom and I didn't notice it. Levster says, I have a beta FPV Air 75 that lost video. In the video tab in Betaflight, status is fail and unknown smart audio. Did the rig lose the VTX table by itself? When did this start? I need to know. If you ever ask someone to help you with your quad, you have to tell them when the problem began. At that point, like, you kind of know what happened. If Levster tags me again here and says the problem began when I slammed it into a tree at full throttle, the flight controller broke, physically broke. And so the absolute most valuable, most important part of the troubleshoot is when the behavior started. If Levster's behavior started when he was in fucking around with Betaflight, yes, you might have screwed up the VTX table. If you were updating Betaflight, this happens a lot when you update Betaflight. Some of the Betaflight targets have the wrong VTX table in them. That happens because there will be like multiple different AIOs that use the same target, and those multiple different AIOs will sometimes need different VTX tables. This is the case with the X12. There are multiple versions of the Happy Model X12. There's like the X12, there's the X12 Pro, there's like earlier versions of the X12, there's later versions of the X12, and unfortunately Happy Model changed the VTX table in there, but they all use the same target in Betaflight. This is one of the big reasons why a lot of us say, don't update. Like, if there's a very specific reason that you need to update, okay, update. But like from Betaflight 4.2 and on, there's pretty much no reason to update. The filters work the same way, the PIDs calculate the same way. There is very little reason to update almost any build that's on 4.2 or newer. And shit like this happens all the time when we update. The VTX table stops working. God, there's all kinds of weird shit that can happen. So don't update unless you need to. Levster, I need to know when the problem started to have any hope of helping you out here. Mape26 says, any way to get 4 minutes run time on digital 1S Whoop? You would have to run a horrendously low kV motor, and it would really suck to fly. It would be a really shitty flying build. Just buy twice as many batteries and get good at landing on your transmitter. All right, it's also like the most show-offy, like, look how cool I am thing to do. Yeah, buy twice as many batteries, land it on your transmitter with a neck strap on it, pick the whoop up, pull the battery real quick, reach into your pocket, fresh battery, and go. And go. Because a 1S digital rig that has 4 minutes runtime, you will not be able to get good shots because the response time will be so bad from it having no power. It won't be fun to fly because the response time will suck and it won't have any power. And so don't do that to yourself. Tinywhoop batteries are incredibly inexpensive. Take advantage of that fact. They're incredibly quick and easy to swap out, right? Unplug, pull it out of the bay, slam the new one in the bay, replug, and away you go. No Velcro, no bullshit, no like, I gotta get the center of gravity centered. Nah, ram it home, plug it in, and go. That's actually a really good question, though. Tommy News says, I did. You did what? Chef Bruno says, late here, and or accounted for. Atreides says, the CrazyG... I missed a ton of chat comments. The CrazyG is almost exactly like the Beta FPV 5-in-1 Air, but with a 1mm board. Okay, very cool. Do you have any experience with the CrazyG, Atreides? Weebleed says, are there any real... I missed a ton of chat comments. What the shit? Weebleed says, are there any real or perceived advantages to a 902 over existing 802 or 1002 setups? Sure. Less weight than 1002, more cooling than 802. Do I think we need a 902? No. As tempting as it is, to want to, like, you know, further optimize, the gap between 802 and 1002 is kind of perfect. On certain builds, like this analog lightweight 2S 1.6-inch prop, whoop. If you want ultimate lightweight and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of power, you go 802. If you want the most power possible, and or maybe you want a little bit of extra weight for more momentum, or you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of extra weight, you go 1002. Technically, sure, I think a 902 would have the best of both worlds, but I gotta be honest, I really like the extra weight that the 1002s have here. And I think people should pick. If you want, also, if you want a dual purpose indoor-outdoor 1.6-inch 2S setup, 802s, hands down. If it's going to be outdoor only, maybe 1002s, unless you've got a super tight technical garden, or if you want it to, if you want to build something that you use on like jungle gyms a lot, right? Jungle gyms have a lot of tiny little gaps that are right next to each other. I actually prefer 1S 65mm builds for jungle gyms because the gaps are so small. But yeah, I think the difference between 802s and 1002s, here's the other thing. I don't think most people would notice a difference between the two builds that I have, 802 versus 1002. I think most people would fly both of these builds and go, holy shit, that's just awesome. Like, that's just the best flying outdoor Tinywhoop that I've ever... You know, next time I go to Patrick's, I will blind test him. We will put his rates on both of these rigs, and we will blind test him. Patrick is a better pilot than most of you guys. No offense, but Patrick has flown a lot. He's a really, really, really good pilot. He hasn't flown as much as I have, and so he is the perfect person to blind test 802 versus 1002. And I'm super curious if he'll be able to tell the difference. I'm going to have him blind test me. Oh, but see, I know the two builds that I have are on different colored frames. And I know the, where is they? Oh, you know, I have to rebuild the The 802 build is actually torn apart at the moment, so I have to put it back together. Wait, no, are they? Nope. Where the hell is the 802 build? I'm pretty sure these two builds are on different colored frames, and I know the color of the frame. So I can't be blind tested on these, but Patrick can. I'm super curious whether he'll be able to tell the difference. This will be really cool. Damn it, I wish that I could blind test myself, because there's actually a chance that I won't be able to tell the difference. First thing I need to do, though, is find the 802 build. It's right fucking here. It's just absolutely right here. No, they are both on clear plastic frames. This is great. Yeah, I won't be able to tell the difference because they're both on the same color propellers and it's the same color frame. That's awesome. Cool. So yeah, next time I hang out with Patrick, him and I are both going to blind test 802 versus 1002. I almost wish that I hadn't switched this over to the RCinPower motors, because the 802s are motor limited down. They are Tinywhoop Hex 802 19,000 kV motors that are motor limited down to 80%. But it's the better way of looking at it here is it's at this 10. I don't know of any 802 14,000 kV motor. I don't know of any 802s less than 19,000 kV that have a 1.5 millimeter motor shaft. And the 1.5 millimeter motor shaft is absolutely essential to these builds, to having any amount of durability. So this is the optimized 1002 1.6 inch 2S setup. This is the optimized 802 2S 1.6 inch setup. So that's, and I blind testing for the sake of blind testing is cool and all, but blind testing two different optimized setups, that's where it's at, because that's what we care about, right? We care about which one is better, and also, like, can you tell the difference? Like, if this, it obviously, yeah. So that's gonna be pretty cool. I wonder if I'll remember to do that. Patrick, are you still in the chat? If you're still in the chat, it's on you to remember that. 'Cause I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna go teach a dance class tonight. I haven't taught one of these dance classes in a couple of months. We had one of our newest members was a professional dancer. And so I was like, hey man, do you mind like teaching a couple of these classes? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he just ran with it. And he's been teaching for like 2 or 3 months now. So I actually haven't personally, and I've been going and I've been helping, but I haven't actually taught one of these couples basics dance classes in a few months. And so, yeah, my brain is going to get Etch-a-Sketch tonight, but hopefully Patrick or you guys, if you care at all about this blind test, which I think you will, because if I care about it, usually you guys do too, will remind me. Let me see what other chat comments I've missed. Hold on. Let me actually let the dog in because he's been out there for a long time. I think Maggie forgot about him. Get inside here, dog. Get out of there. Come on. Come on, Teddy. Don't you dare. Teddy! Get inside. Come here. Get out of the... No, get out of there. Get out of the weeds. Oh, my God. Teddy! You get in here right now. Teddy! Hey, come here. Come on, let's go. Teddy! Inside. Teddy! Get your ass up here. You what? He's been out there for a while, though. There he comes. Good boy. He was out rooting around down the bottom. Maggie screams, he has to potty. No. He's been out there for at least 10 minutes. Nonsense. He was all the way down the bottom of the hill rooting around. Now he's going to stink like shit. All right. Brandon's Baked Beans is in the house. He says, I recommended a local buddy get the new TX15 with crossband ELRS, and he went and bought a TX16S with a 4-in-1. How can I forgive? He's Crossfire now. He's Crossfire, but now moving to ELRS is even harder now. He's Crossfire, but now moving to ELRS. Oh, right. Yeah. That's super annoying. But, you know, FPV is impossible for new people. Ramalala says, Goku F405 HD 1-2S 12 amp ELRS 2.4 AIO V2. This is tempting a la Money AIO 1-2S. Yeah, that Goku is what Rotor Riot uses for their Vision 20. And I talked to Tyler, their Gruss FPV, their main guy there, like a year ago about it, and they've had really good luck with that. So that Goku AIO is it's good. It's really expensive though, unfortunately. So that's why I haven't used that one yet, because the other options have been fairly bulletproof. Basilius says, I saw you talking in a stream about the Whip V antenna a guy called Cloudhopper makes, and I'm super interested in making one myself, but haven't found any info about it, any pointers. Yeah, so Cloudhopper's 1S 75mm build that he sent me a while ago has that antenna on it, and it's awesome. It's admittedly difficult to make, but it's really, really cool, and you can make it from a regular old whip antenna. It's kind of buried in here, so it's pretty hard to see, but it is a whip it. Wait, is that it? Or is it this one? Oh, where the hell is it? Yeah. That's it. It's really hard to see, but the grounding plane is right down in there. That little black strip on the inside there. Hold on, I need to be able to see the OBS window. On the back there, pushing up against the back of the canopy, there's a little black there. You can see it right on the right side of the screen there. That's the grounding plane, and then here's the active element here. So basically, what you've got to do is take a whip antenna. You've got to remove this outer shrimp wrap. You remove this shrimp wrap made from the exoskeletons of the finest shrimp. And then this big booger here in the middle, this is a big heavy metal ground plane. You're going to remove that next. You take a soldering iron, you put it in between this booger and the active element. There's a little bit of solder there that holds this metal grounding plane on here, and then you slide that grounding plane off. Now you have an antenna with no grounding plane and just the active element. Then you have to cut the active element off. You need to get the measurement of the active element, and then you need to make a new active element back here at any point here. You might as well leave it full length, but you need to make another active element. And now this is where it's going to get super confusing. Those antenna wires are an outer insulating black vinyl sleeve. Inside of that is the ground braiding. It's a steel braid. So black silicone or PVC maybe even, and then the grounding braid. And then inside the grounding braid is plastic, a clear plastic insulating layer. And then at the very core is the active element. It's like 3 or 4 strands of wire that are the active element. So once you've removed that grounding plane and you've cut off the active element, you've just got a chunk of antenna with those 4 layers. What you need to do is there's a very specific measurement. I think it's like 23.2 millimeters. You need to look up. ELRS is 2.4 gigahertz. So you need to look up the correct active element length for 2.4 gigahertz. There are going to be multiple different measurements because you can either do an antenna in full wave, full length, or you can do it in half wave or quarter wave or fifth wave. I think these are usually either quarter wave or fifth wave. And that's where that 23.2 or 32.3, whatever the hell it is, millimeters length is. You can also just measure the active element. However long that active element is that you cut off, that's the length that you want, okay? So now you've got this antenna. What you need to do is expose that same length of the active element, which is the inner 3 or 4 strands of wire. You don't want to cut the plastic protection layer off of that, though. So you need to expose that length of wire. But to make it... And so you can run these antennas without a ground plane. Most of the racers just run naked antennas. They take the outer shrink wrap off. They use a soldering iron to remove that big booger, that big steel ground plane, and they just run the antenna. And I do too. Here, this build, actually. The newbie drone race that I was flying a couple streams ago, it has that exact setup. It doesn't work nearly as well. When you remove the grounding plane, it makes it work worse, but it still works okay for a Tinywhoop that you usually fly 20 feet away from yourself. Cloudhopper's really cool antenna design, though, what he does is that active element length down the full 4-layer antenna, he goes down that amount, and he slits around just the outside to remove the black outer sleeve. That now exposes the braid, which is ground. You then have to take that braid. I don't know how he does this actually, but you need to take that braid and get it off of the rest of that antenna, because you need to that braid is shielding for the active element. It's the ground, but it's also shielding, and so you need to remove that section of the braid to expose the active element. And then what you do is you I think he puts a little bit of shrink wrap around that braid, or maybe liquid electric tape, but you need to hold that braid together, and you need to put it at a 120-degree angle. It's the same angle that these custom ORT micro Vs that I sell on my Etsy store is at. See this is 120 degrees. And on these little antennas, this is the ground and this is the active element up here. And so you put that at 120 degrees, which is roughly what I have it at here. Not quite though, because if I crash and the antenna bends up like that, now it's not 120 degrees. Now it's not 120 degrees either. But it's kind of close enough. And if you do all of that, you have the lightest possible, best functioning antenna that you can have. If you go to CiottiFPV.com and jump into my Discord, you should be able to go into like general and type @cloud, and Cloudhopper is in my Discord, and you can ask him for ask him how the hell he gets that that braid free of the rest of that inner wire. Yeah, it's doable. But it takes some work, and you gotta like measure some stuff, and it's a little fiddly. But yeah, that is the antenna on this build here is absolutely the lightest possible, best performing option. It's a mix of those things though. If that grounding braid was removed, it would be a little bit lighter. So it's not the lightest weight antenna. If that 120-degree angle was more locked in, like it is on these ORTs, then it would perform a little bit better. So it's not the best performing antenna, but it's the best of those two. right? It's the lightest with the best performance. To go any lighter than this, you lose a lot of performance. To gain performance, you gain weight. Make sense? Yeah, he comes to the live streams every so often. I haven't seen him in a little while though, but he's on the Discord. So if you at him on the Discord, he might reply and give you some tips and tricks. It's a very cool little project to do. Look how cool that sticker is. Don't you want that sticker? Got to go to my Etsy store. Gotcha, bitch. Good question, brother. Where the hell was I? There he is. Tommy News says, I have an 04 light in an Air 65 and can't get it working with the Light Radio 3. Can you help me? We already talked about that. I don't have enough to go off of. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Now I'm starting to get... Yeah, I missed like a chunk in the middle of the chat. That's weird. Denzel the Terrible's in the house. What's up, dude? Levster said... we got that? Okay, great. Caught up on that one. Apache Smoke says, well, I'm out. Thanks for hanging, brother. And thanks for all the time stamping. You and he who shall not be named. He doesn't want me to give him props. He just wants to be the invisible time stamper. I so much appreciate that you guys continue to do that. It's insane. Chef Bruno says, what frames do you use for the bigger motors though? All I have found is Meteor 8 or 5 because a lot of them are 4-hole, not 3. Yeah, that's one of the problems that we run into. We are constantly limited by we are constantly gear limited in Tinywhoop land, which gets a little bit annoying, but it's okay. There is enough gear combinations where at any given size, at any given all-up weight, we can build something that absolutely rails. Come here, buddy. Come here. Let's see how stank he is. Euro says, good job not scratching the car. McBuka says, you ran bi-blades on both. Yes, same exact everything. Are you stinky now, dog? If so, how stinky? Oh, brother. Oh, very stinky is the answer to that question. Holy shit. I don't like it when he spends that much time outside because he gets all sweaty and it's just disgusting. Like I didn't even get my nose near him. Like I can't let him on the couch tonight. Like he'll stink so bad. It's just horrifying. That's why when I hear him out there for more than 5 minutes, I always get up and try to get his ass back in. Because yeah, more than 5 minutes outside, and it's just awful. Also, when he runs around down the bottom of the hill, he smells horrendous. And if he's out there for more than 5 minutes, he starts running around down the bottom of the hill. YouTube just did the thing again, scrolling back up. I'm just gonna call you Card because I can't read all those letters together like that. Card says, how would prop pitch factor into all of this? Would a higher pitch prop equal more heat in the motor? Absolutely. The more blade angle, which is what happens when the pitch numbers are higher, the more blade angle, the harder the propeller is to spin. So the more heat gets dumped into the motor, the less RPM that you're going to see, the harder it's going to sort of like work a motor. It's super important when you're doing any kind of back-to-back testing like this that you run the exact same propellers. It makes a massive difference. Ramalala says, Ill Chill was checking UAV jobs today, scattering ashes I found. 'Tis a service. Wow. That's a very specific drone job right there. Labster says, it happened overnight. I swear it was fine the night before, 100%. That's super weird. I got to scroll back up to reread what the issue was. But I remember that it was an issue that certainly should not have happened overnight. Where the hell is it? Come on. There it is. Beta FPV Air 75 that lost video. Well, here's the thing. If it has no video, fix the VTX table. What I was about to say is that if it has no video, even if it had the wrong VTX table, it shouldn't matter. You should always have video, but that's not true. If the VTX table is wrong enough, if the VTX table is wrong enough, you could not have video. So you need to fix the VTX table first. Just get in touch with Beta FPV. Just message them somewhere. You could probably find it with Google. You could probably find a VTX table or two. Fix the VTX table problem. Do some digging there. Figure that out. Try a couple different VTX tables. But that's how the Beta FPV Air AIOs die. The VTX dies or the receiver dies. So it's probably physically dead. But you might as well fix the VTX table, which is kind of the only thing that you can do. Try a different antenna, but that won't, even without an antenna, it should at least give you a little bit of video. Yeah, it's probably dead. It's probably physically dead. But may as well fix the VTX table, or at least try a couple different VTX tables. Whoop Fox says, have a Hummingbird V4 AIO. The video will go rainbow static when flying, go black, then be just fine. Tried other cameras and channels, no crazy crushes, just inside crashing, but just started. So when you tried other cameras and channels, what happened? I'm assuming the same behavior. Unfortunately, video problems with AIOs, there isn't a goddamn thing you can do. Like, if you can try to change the VTX table, but what you're describing, it's going rainbow is like internal fuckery. You know what I mean? Like, the camera doesn't go rainbow, but you already tried other cameras. Changing channels, I mean, it's not going to do anything, but that was a great troubleshooting step. Yeah, there's really, this is when you've got a receiver or a VTX built into an AIO, this is one of the biggest problems, is that if they start acting up, you just throw it away. I mean, you don't actually throw it away. You fly it like a lunatic until it breaks all the way. But yeah, there's really nothing you can do, unfortunately. You've already done pretty much everything that you can do. Whoop Fox says, follow-up question. Nah, bro, get out of here. I can't stand the way you smell when you're rooting around in the weeds, brother. Whoop Fox says, follow-up on question, did not update anything. Yeah, no, you've got a physical issue going on there. If it's a relatively new Hummingbird V4 AIO, contact Newbie Drone. Tell them what's going on. They might hook you up. Ginger F. Oh, God, it stinks so bad. Dude, oh, oh. God, man. Unbelievable. Go upstairs. Teddy, upstairs. No, don't come back over here. Yeah, he went upstairs. Go stink your mama out. Ginger FPV RC says, hey, buddy, how you doing? 2-month check-in after the move. Doing good. How you are? Flying less but happier. Love it, dude. Ramalala says, could a transmitter take runtime data? Moving to multi-cell batteries, could they record their own runtime data in the future? So you could guess a battery's future performance. Yeah, anything's possible. I mean, hell, you could even like kind of do that yourself. On OpenTX or EdgeTX, you can put a throttle timer on, And the throttle timer, one of the options is for it to scale with the amount of throttle that you're putting in. And so if you get your throttle timer dialed in just right for where your batteries are at today, as your batteries get worse and worse, you'll notice that you will not run the timer out to 0. There's two options in here. There's like just a straight timer. You arm it and it starts counting. Or there's a timer that speeds up. Well, at full throttle, it's a regular timer. But then anything less than full throttle, it slows down by the percentage that you're giving it. And that works really, really, really well. So you can kind of already do that, obviously, in like a not nearly as slick of a way as what you're talking about. But yeah. Atreides says, yes, CrazyG has the latest beta flight on it and hard to flash, but tuning it the way it is seems to fly really great, and the antenna protects the VTX unlike the beta FPV Air. Still 2G4 is the best. There you go. Atreides is one of the drone mechanics over at Fly 533. Super cool dude, great pilot as well. And so Fly 533 sells a whole bunch of race whoops, and so he actually has more experience than I do with like the really current electronics in the whoop world. And he's, interfacing with racers who are smashing these things at full throttle into hard objects. So he's a great resource in the whoop world for questions like this. I appreciate it, brother. Levster says, I didn't plug this Air 75 into beta flight for 3 months now, and I have flown it the night before. That's so weird to me, but it just lost video without me doing anything. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, check like the easy stuff to check, the camera plug. It shouldn't be the camera plug though, because you said it lost video. You didn't say it. Well, if you still, I guess I should have said this. If you still have OSD, when people say to me lost video, what that means to me personally is that you just have static, which means that the VTX is not outputting either anything or it's not outputting with enough signal strength to get you any actual video. If the situation is that the video is gone, but the OSD, the camera video is gone, but the OSD is still there, well, then your camera is just dead. And so, yeah, I should have said that, but I assume that everybody knows that, which is a stupid thing to assume. Yeah, I've had that before. I've had it before where I fly a rig, it's totally fine. I put it on a shelf. The next time I grab it, it's broken. Makes absolutely no sense, but not a whole lot in FPV makes sense. So, You Can FPV says, you got to play it off like it's the same rig and see if we can tell them apart. Yeah, right. Could you guys tell a difference in the flight characteristics between the T-motor motors and the RCinPowers? I couldn't feel a difference. I highly doubt that you guys could. If you think you could, it's probably placebo. And they also, the RPM difference was only like 1,000 between the two of them, so you really should not, there's kind of no chance that you could have seen a difference, but I don't know. You never know. Benny Bravo says, CiottiFPV and Eddie DYAF. I don't know what DYAF is. Oh, my keyboard lost its mind. Teddy doesn't give a fuck. Yeah. Rockcrawler says, you squish the braiding down like a Chinese thumb trap and spread the braids just enough to pull the active element through it. Ah, okay. There we go. Wait, Rockcrawler, is that you, Cloudhopper? Or do you also do these? Very cool. So the braiding, it's braiding, it's like a Chinese finger trap, so you're going to push it like this, and then... Damn, dude, that's got to be tough to get that active element bent all the way down in there. That's tough. And then liquid electric tape to coat it. Very cool. Vasily says, thank you for the extremely thorough explanation. I'll most likely join your Discord. Very cool. If you really liked my explanation, join my fucking Patreon, brother. That's where all the cool people hang out, and that's what I need to be able to continue doing this full time. hopefully at some point, for all of you that aren't currently on my Patreon, hopefully at some point I will have done enough work here to earn that $3 a month or whatever other tier that you choose to jump onto. Yeah, it is my Patreon is 100% the way that you guys can keep me doing this. And I will keep doing, you know, I don't make much money doing this, but I really enjoy it. And I make just enough to pay a couple of the household bills and put some food on the table for everybody. And, you know, Maggie is happy enough with me, you know, doing something that I enjoy, that also allows me to have extra time to do things with the kids and pick them up in the middle of the day when she's, you know, hammered busy working. You know, I make a little bit less than half of what she does. But, you know, between the two of us, we make enough to live, and being happy and making enough money to live is the dream. It's not just making lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money. For me, at least. You know, I've had periods in my life where I've made more than double what I make now, and I was not happier. And, yeah, we don't know how much time we have on this planet, so being happy in the time that we've got is, you know, the main priority. Uriel says, does he rub himself in horse shit? He certainly smells like he does. Dan Zilderfeld says, time for CiottiFPV to give the wee man a bath. See, that's the problem. We bathe his little ass, and then he gets let outside for 15 minutes, and it's just ruined. And like, he's not good in the bath. He's kind of a pain in the ass. So yeah, I prefer him to not root around at the bottom of the hill so he doesn't stank to high hell rather. Ramalala says, EU can FPV, username fun and all. McMuka says, dogs don't sweat. If he stinks, most likely he was rolling around in a deer. Oh god, deer carcass. Do they really not sweat? I thought maybe he sweated because schnauzers are one of these breeds that have hair, not fur, and so I thought maybe he was sweating. But it would make sense that he doesn't sweat because it's fucking cold as balls outside. McBuca says, why not triblades on the 14,000s? There is not a good 1.6-inch triblade. All of the 1.6-inch triblades are either too fragile or out of balance. Also, for flying Tinywhoops outside, biblades are a better idea, in my opinion, because they're already accurate enough. You don't want the extra grip from the triblades. You actually want the slidiness of the biblades. Also, biblades are a lot lighter weight, so the response time is incredible. And you have plenty of power. I don't need or want any more power on this thing. It already just absolutely hammers. So yeah, a lot of different reasons. Nam Carver says, McMucus and CiottiFPV, that's a good question. Have you guys seen the Gemfan 1614-3 1.5 millimeter shaft propeller? I don't recognize that designation. Hold on. 1614. That's new. 1614-3. Interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Very interesting. But I'm sticking with these 1610s. They make plenty of power. The reason to switch to this propeller would be if you didn't have enough grip, which I do. I actually want less grip, or if you don't have enough power. And I do have plenty of power. So I don't personally have a reason to switch over to this. I don't know. I can't speak to this propeller. I can't speak to it being well balanced. I can't speak to it being durable. It probably is, though. It's probably well balanced and it's probably durable. Also, it's going to be heavier because it's a tri-blade. I like the response time of the biblades. So for me, these biblades are absolutely perfect. And I think for most of you, they're going to be perfect as well. But yeah, those are the reasons that you would... If you wanted to try that prop, run the 1610. If it's not grippy enough, if it's not thrusty enough, those are the two only reasons that you would go to that propeller. You Can FPV says, I think I killed my AIO 5 yesterday, dropped from the top of a door frame and lost video. Now when I plug it in, it's just black. Couldn't see any broken wires. Sounds like it's broken internally. That sucks, dude. But yeah, that's AIOs. Ramalala says, I'll look into that timer, sift through JB stuff, or throw suggestions at Betaflight. Rockcrawler says you've got a good woman in life. I do indeed. I'm very, very, very lucky. Not that I haven't, worked my ass off to grow as a human being. In a way that Maggie would be willing to give me the time of day, right? Like men that are chauvinistic or just not awake, are not going to last 4 seconds with her. I've had a hell of a path to become somebody with enough control over himself and that understands mental health stuff and just, what it is to be a man in 2025, which a lot of people don't really understand and still think that we should be lunatics that are, that smash things. That's taken a lot of work and a lot of personal growth. But yeah, I'm still extremely lucky that I found her on Match.com. Darby says, happy Sunday fun day. Ripped about 20 batteries this afternoon here in Orlando until one of my motor leads broke on my Air 75. Lake Nona had some cool spots and fun spots to dive. Very cool, man. Love that. 20 batteries is pretty good before you broke it, just for this day. Levster says, dogs sweat under the thong. Tamava says, go back and look at that Gem Fan prop cost. I saw it. They just have it... that must be their default number to make sure that nobody orders them. Yeah, that prop is probably not available yet because I keep an eye on this stuff and I've never seen that for sale anywhere. So I'm willing to bet that's just a placeholder, and you can't buy it quite yet. Darwi says, very well said. Growth as a human is the ultimate journey. It is indeed. Uriel with the last comment of the live stream, he says, yeah, but he should keep humor in the sexes. There is plenty of humor in our relationship. I did put 6 batteries in the live stream title, but it is 516, and I got to roll. So I'm going to fly 1 battery, and you guys are going to fly the other 5 or 6. So make sure that you go do that. I'm going to do one really quick. This is the Mobula 6 2024 Ultimate Freestyle Tinywhoop for this year. Cockroach V3 frame. HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3 propellers. Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors. Mobula 6 2024 AIO. These motors are direct soldered. Kind of drives me insane, but Mobula 6 old school canopy, Runcam Nano 3, and custom CiottiFPV length ORT micro V antenna in red now, which are available over on my Etsy store. We are going to run a Tattoo 300 mAh 1S battery that has been cycled quite a bit. Go fly my other 5 batteries, please, friends. Oh, and a Tinywhoop LED 180 degree BT 2.0 ding dong. Not a fresh battery, but that's all right. This battery is probably about a year old. Oh, shitters. I gotta unplug and replug the video receiver up here. Hang on. All right. There we go. You guys should have video in 3, 2, 1. There it is. All right, let's go. Quick battery, and then I'm out of here. I'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is a giveaway live stream. If you are not a patron, or if you are on the $3 a month tier, if you jump up to the $5 a month tier, you will be entered to win $40 to $50 to $60 worth of Tinywhoop stuff. There's also a $10 a month tier if you want to win 3-inch micro brushless or Tinywhoop parts. There's a $20 a tier if you want the chance to win 5-inch parts. There's even a $1 a day tier that'll enter you to win all 3 of those. So you'll be entered to win every first Monday of the month. You don't have to be on the live stream. Patreon allows me to just have your info. So you're entered every single month that you're a Patreon. That you're a patron, rather. Oh, really? I just barely touched it. I was trying to get really close to the air mattress up there. Oh, waited a little bit too long on that one. Oh man, I'm just letting it float, and I'm just waiting a little bit too long to try to catch it. Oh, right in between the fucking leaves. That was too cool. Oh, he won't net me. I've only been able to do that twice. What a mess that he made, man. What a little bastard. Why you gotta dismember stuff, Teddy? Oh, I tried to throw it back through that. Through this fella. Wow. Wow! Rejection after rejection. Let's just fly through it. There we go! That's all I was trying to do. Oh, man. Oh, boy, I'm flying like a bag of smashed assholes today. Oh! No! Oh! Chair got me. Oof. Anytime I get through the newbie drone cleanly is a good day. The newbie drone cube is the smallest gates in here. Oh, so close. That went through. Hey! There you go, people. Thanks for hanging. Fly my other 5 batteries for me, and tomorrow you will thank you because you'll be a little bit of a better pilot. 6 batteries, 6 Tinywhoop batteries a day every day will completely transform you as a pilot, I promise you. You got to do it every day, though. It'll only take you like 20, 30 minutes, though. So start doing it. Fly 6 a day, and you'll have so much more fun a month from now because you'll be a significantly better pilot. And flying good, it's like flying in the house is extremely difficult, and so you have to be really good to kind of like have fun. Otherwise, you're just crashing. So do it. You'll thank me later. Love you, friends. Here's some more. Well, here's the 1S battery again from that I played at the beginning of the live stream.
A proof positive that the
I think
1002, 25,000s. These were nutty on the thrust stand.
Here's the 1S battery again to compare during the stream. I played the 2S batteries. Love you. Bye. See you guys tomorrow night at 10.
I got my goggles on, my socks are off. I'm flying through the hallway like a disco ball. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. Dip through the doorway, spin by the cat. Bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through curtain, dancing on breeze. Freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tinywhoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight. Can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party. On a roll, TV remote's a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Move it low, we fly that flow, spread that gap, no time to nap, no time to nap. Hit that roll, funk and control, bounce that wall, we fly it all, we fly it all. Tinywhoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tinywhoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sail.